Entrei. Oi, oi, oi. Tô aqui do lado. Oba, que bom. Cara, foi de repente. Eu vim montando esse vídeo o dia inteiro, porque você sabe que houve um atentado contra o Donald Trump e precisava ser mostrado, né? Isso não pode ficar parado aqui, jogado. É uma notícia importante para entrar. E eu só quis entrar depois que eu tive tudo na mão, ou seja, depois que eu tive. Entrei duas vezes com a mesma coisa? Entrei. Não tem problema. A gente tira uma. E depois que eu tive a certeza de como o cara entrou na festa, como o cara, o que aconteceu, como estava o Trump durante a festa. Quando eu não tive isso na mão, eu não quis entrar. Eu fui, a primeira coisa que eu peguei hoje de manhã cedinho foi o discurso dele na Casa Branca. Peguei, botei legenda, acertei, tá tudo bem, legal, oba, mas eu queria essas duas informações, senão não completavam. E aí eu fui buscar também informações junto com a NTN 24 e a Israel TV, que também falaram. Mas a Israel TV teve uma reportagem tão bacana no final que vai viajar junto. E conta a história de 200 israelenses não, porque eles são judeus, né? Não são israelenses, são judeus, do mundo todo que estão indo para lá para morar em Israel. Eles arrumam e cuidam para morar em Israel. E conta a história também da primeira eleição na Palestina. A primeira, antes do Arafat, não deixava ter eleição. Tá? Ele tinha que ser terrorista, tinha que fazer tudo terrorismo. Agora, acabou, foi embora. Gaza hoje tem uma paz que pode ser duradoura. E hoje a prova dessa paz foi a primeira eleição municipal. Prefeitos e vereadores foram eleitos hoje. Depois vai vir o resto daí. É um país mudando, é uma mentalidade mudando. Então achei melhor manter essas reportagens na Israel TV inteira, passar aqui hoje também. Não passar de noite, até porque de noite a gente está com um problema sério, né, meu filho? Afinal de contas, se é um país sério, três pelo menos já estavam três ministros já estavam na cadeia. Três já estariam lá, tá? Três já estariam. Os presidentes tanto da Câmara e do Senado também estariam na cadeia. Mas a gente tem que aguentar, tem que esperar vir uma coisa ou outra. Falta um homem, faltou uma mulher que bota essa turma, né, para dentro de casa, vai tomar conta de casa. Deixa eu fazer um negócio aqui. Eu tenho que mudar, senão não vai dar para vocês. Talvez não esteja dando para vocês lerem. Não sei, acho que está assim. Para mim é que não aparece. Vamos nós aqui. Do meu lado tem um link, do lado desse link tem um código QR. Tanto faz você entrar pelo link como entrar pelo código QR. Você vai para uma plataforma onde estão todos os nossos canais. Está tudo lá. Que bom que está lá, hein? Que legal, que bacana. Tudo lá. E você pode participar e acompanhar a nossa vida. Veja bem, isso aqui é uma edição extraordinária. Eu ia fazer um outro vídeo para botar de tarde, que é sobre a Venezuela. Pode ser que eu bote lá para as 6, 7 horas e depois para fazer o programa à noite. Olha só como é que tem coisa para fazer. Ou então deixa para botar amanhã. Mas o caso do Trump obriga você a trabalhar e a correr atrás. Essa que é a grande verdade. Tá? Você não podia deixar o que aconteceu lá nos Estados Unidos não mostrar. Por quê? Porque o Trump é um líder mundial e ele, por ser um líder mundial, ele está fazendo tudo para botar a direita, não vou dizer nem a direita, mas para trazer democracia, liberdade de expressão. Ele tinha um discurso preparado hoje para a liberdade de expressão que ele não fez. E justamente na hora que ele acabava de jantar e tudo mais, que ele ia fazer o discurso, houve um atentado. E é um negócio impressionante, vocês vão assistir aqui com gente. Então, ó, do meu lado tem um link, do lado desse link tem um código QR. Tanto faz você entrar pelo link como entrar pelo código QR. Você vai para uma plataforma onde estão todos os nossos canais, vai lá, se inscreve em todos os canais que você puder. Você lá vai ver o X, aí você vai até o X, se inscreve no X. Você vai ver YouTube, você vai até o YouTube, se inscreve no YouTube. Você vai ver Facebook, Facebook tem uns 10 lá, vai lá e segue a gente, os 10 Facebook. Aí você vai no Instagram, você vai no LinkedIn, então tá demais, a plataforma tem tudo muito bem. Obrigado, já ganhei até um like aqui, ó. Like com emoji. Valdir, não dá para ler, não. Não dá para ler, desculpa, o outro não dá para ler, minha catarata não deixa. Valdir. Tem alguma coisa errada? Tem coisa errada aqui? Tem coisa errada mesmo. Está estranhíssimo isso aqui, mas tudo bem. É porque eu tenho o telefone celular ligado no meu YouTube, e botou que o YouTube não tinha ninguém. Eu fui ver, peraí, está funcionando? Foi só esticar a cabeça para ver, está funcionando. Essas audiências que eles botam aí para a gente não tem nada a ver, cara. Dá até raiva, mas deixa para lá. Link, código QR, se inscreve no nosso YouTube, se inscreve no nosso X, dá essa força para a gente. você não paga nada, você não precisa mandar superchat, você não precisa ser associado, está zero de novo. O YouTube está marcando a audiência zero. E eu estou com ele ligado aqui no meu celular. Vou virar aqui para trás, está tudo funcionando. Que coisa, hein? Que coisa, hein? YouTube, continua o mesmo, censurando todo mundo. Vai ver. Eu estou pensando seriamente em trocar meu sistema Windows para Linux. Por que o Windows? Porque o Windows diz para você, você não vai trabalhar com esse aplicativo que eu não quero. Pô, quem manda no computador sou eu ou ele? Eu quero entender. Quem tem que escolher os aplicativos que eu uso sou eu, não ele. Que coisa, cara. Isso é coisa da Microsoft. E, aliás, parece que o... Não, quem já contou tudinho foi o Zuckerberg do Face. Ainda o Bill Gates não falou nada. Vamos ver como é que acontece as coisas que estão lá nos Estados Unidos acontecendo. Tá? Vou tirar aqui o boa noite, boa tarde do Oswaldo, né? Metade ele deu boa tarde, está até certo. Obrigado, Oswaldo, pelo boa tarde também. E aí, continua zero. Eu sei que você está vendo a gente aí. Agora botou um, tem que botar mais. Tem mais gente vendo a gente. Claro que dispara, vai lá em cima. Isso aqui é uma bagunça. Bem, não esquece de deixar seu like, não esquece agora, no começo, já like. Deixa um comentário, se puder, comentário. E se puder, compartilha também, compartilha com quem não nos conhece. Aumentamos a nossa família. A nossa família tem que crescer. Cada dia ela cresce quando você compartilha com quem não nos conhece. Isso é importante. Bem, deixa eu tirar eles aqui, né? Deixa eu tirar aqui. Pronto, tirei. Deixa eu remover o conteúdo. Está tudo certinho, tudo certinho. Continua zero. Que coisa, cara. Como é que pode estar zero? O YouTube vai e volta para o zero. Aqui eu estou com o YouTube aqui ligado, estou vendo a minha cara aqui. Estou quase mostrando aqui. Aqui é eu aqui, para vocês verem. E o cara dando zero. Que sem vergonha esse negócio aí. Quem é? O Google? É o Google, né? Que é o dono do YouTube? Ou é o Microsoft que está mexendo no meu computador, que diz que eles é que mandam? Por isso que eu vou passar para o sistema Linux. Vai ver, talvez acabe até essas quedas estranhas de internet que a gente tem. Aí, não, mas por que você não aceita, faz uma experiência, ganha o nosso PowerPoint? Por que eu vou, se eu não uso PowerPoint? Se eu não uso Excel, para que eu vou ter que ter isso aqui no meu computador? Que coisa! E eu continuo zero. Dá para me ver? Deixa eu ver. Olha lá, tá vendo? Olha eu me vendo aqui no celular. Tá vendo? Eu me vendo no celular. Aí tem um delay. Tá vendo aí? E tá marcando zero. Zero no YouTube. É zero no YouTube. Que vergonha, hein, Google? Que vergonha. Assim, por isso muita gente reclamando, minha audiência caiu. Minha audiência... Vocês é que mandam, vocês é que fazem, vocês é que estão aí com essas coisas de mandar no governo. Bom, como eu expliquei, a abertura vai ser como estava acontecendo com o Trump, vocês vão assistir aqui agora. Tá, eu vou descrevendo, porque não tem nem áudio de lá. Botaram um agora. Que coisa, hein, Google? Poxa. Curti outro. Me deixa em paz. Esquece, me esquece. Só estou aqui para trazer a verdade. Jornalismo povão, jornalismo sem frescura, jornalismo sem telepronto, jornalismo tudo feito à base de improviso. Mas simples, faltando a verdade. Mas, inclusive, aproveitando que a gente vai montar a Israel TV, NTN 24, vocês vão saber como anda as negociações de paz lá na guerra do Oriente Médio. Vocês tudo isso aqui hoje aqui. O cara vai lá, eu voltei para o zero. Não adianta me jogar para o zero. Eu não vou parar, não vou desistir, não vou desaparecer. Não adianta me jogar para o zero. Que coisa, que cara sem vergonha. Vamos nós aqui com vocês. Certo? Jornalistas todos. Essa japonesa que está, asiática, né, porque não fizeram japonesa, pode ser coreana, pode ser descendente de que for, sentada do lado dele, essa aí a Melanie conversando com o outro, e o garçom, olha lá, na hora, a câmera até balança na hora de tudo. Aí ele retua. Aí manda deitar para baixo, ninguém entende nada, só escuta o barulho. Também tudo para baixo. Aquele primeiro policial, ele fica logo na frente, depois que o Trump sai, ele sai da frente do Trump. Para não ter nenhum tiro. Que coisa. Rapaz, você trabalha como segurança, tem que ser o primeiro da frente. Que coisa, que coisa, que coisa. Ah? Aí vai chegando o resto, chega todo mundo depois. É isso aí. Deixa eu voltar aqui um pouquinho. Aqui, tá vendo o cara na frente da mesa? Ele fica em pé na frente do trem quando por causa do barulho. Ele é o primeiro a correr e ficar lá. A missão dele é levar um tiro no lugar do presidente. Aqui. Ele está conversando, aí a câmera balança, né? Porque vou soltar aqui. Balançou para o tiro, aí o cara já fica ali na frente, ó, ninguém dá tiro nele, aí ele vai levantar ele atrás, ele chega até a cair no chão. Lá. Vamos levantar ele, que ele sai correndo, vamos embora lá. Aí ele vai cair ali, pronto. Depois levanta e ele vai embora. Aí o cara que estava ali na frente cai. Aí chega uma série de guardas ali para ficar ali na frente, para não deixar ninguém passar para o quarto que ele tem atrás para guardar ele, para segurar ele e tudo mais. Interessantíssimo essa coisa do. Deixa eu remover aqui. Da segurança, como é que funciona a coisa toda, né? Mas aí, vamos ver como é que o cara burlou a segurança, Chegou na sala anterior, não chegou lá dentro. Cara, eu vou dizer uma coisa para você. Esse cara nunca ia chegar lá. A maneira com que ele burlou a segurança é deixar você de boca aberta. Como é que pode uma pessoa burlar a segurança desse jeito? Olha só, hein? Assiste isso aqui. Vou botar aqui do lado. Olha lá, tá vendo? Aqui é a sala de segurança. Ele passou correndo. Aí vai todo mundo atrás dele. Aí acho que ele cai, que ele dá um tiro no policial e cai. Aí vai todo mundo atrás dele.
Open the door!
Aí já falando, já pode abrir. Essa aqui é a porta lá de fora. Aí ele foi levado ali para cima. Aí no que sobe, meu filho, ele já está sem camisa, jogado no chão. Já. A sobe, ele está sem camisa, jogado no chão. Entrou correndo, vamos pular a segurança, meu crachá falso, meu não sei o que lá. Por que ele ia passar uma arma naquele monte de detector de metal que tinha ali na frente? Ele entrou correndo. Ou seja, ele chamou a segurança toda atrás dele. Cara, contrata esse cara é muito bom. Tem que rir. Você entra correndo, como é que você entra correndo, cara? Olha lá, ele tá ali no chão, caído, deitado. A câmera vai ter um close mais perto. Aí, ó, ali ele, ali. Cercado de agência até não querer mais. Tá aí. O que ele fez? Ele entrou correndo, cara. Eu nunca tinha visto isso. O cara, meses de planejamento, ele vai jantar ali, eu vou estar lá, porque tudo dele é feito com um processo. Eu vou lá. Se hospedou no hotel. Então ele estava circulando no hotel porque ele estava ali dentro. Aí ele olhou a porta lá para a entrada lá da coisa lá do trem. O que ele fez? Entrou correndo. E com uma espingarda na mão. Uma arma forte, pesada na mão. Que coisa, cara. Ele queria o quê? Chegar vivo até perto do trem? Não ia chegar nunca. Ele levou arma, levou faca, ele levou tudo para brigar com todo mundo. Ele está preso, está vivo. E não apareceram de helicóptero nenhum lá, advogado. Que coisa, né? Nenhum advogado apareceu para defender o cara. Disse assim, não posso falar nada, me ajuda. Agora, fala esse negócio de advogado que aparece depois, né? Que aconteceu isso aqui em 2018 no Brasil. Tem uma coisa que fica. Hoje, essa semana, é que vai ser pautado. Essa semana que vai ser pautado no STF, certo? Se o sigilo dos advogados podem ou não ser quebrados. Essa semana. Ficou se guardando sigilo por quê? Porque não queria chegar ao caso. Lá o nego já foi na casa do cara, já cercou a casa do cara, já viu se botou os cadores de bomba. Você já viu em filme, né? O bandido faz uma armadilha, o policial vai lá na casa dele ver se tem alguma prova e acaba morrendo explodido. Então o que foi? Isso tudo foi pensado. Eles chegaram lá, botaram os cadores de bomba, fizeram uma varredura na casa, ver se tinha alguma bomba, não tinha. Agora entra e começa a mexer nas coisas dele. Tem nome, o cara é professor. Estava revoltado, não sei. Que diferença, né? E não apareceu, como eu falei, nem o advogado de jatinho pousando lá em hoje. Cheguei no jatinho aqui porque a gente ficou com pena. 4 advogados ficaram com pena e fomos lá. Que coisa, hein? Eita, que policinha assim, mequetrefe mesmo. Ainda arma com os outros, diz que não. Então é isso aí que está acontecendo, aconteceu lá em Washington. Deixa eu remover isso aqui, porque veio 2 desses negócios. Deixa eu tirar ele. Pronto. Esse aqui foi o valente cara que entrou correndo. Que coisa. Agora vocês vão ver a cobertura da NTN 24, tá? Sobre isso aí. A gente acompanhou muita coisa, isso aí é a cobertura deles. Eles não tinham muita coisa, o começo é pequenininho, como nós.
Desde Washington, D.C., donde reportaron hace minutos un tiroteo en la tradicional cena de corresponsales en la capital de Estados Unidos. Natalia Cabrera, periodista NTN 24, en el centro del poder político. Natalia, buenas noches. ¿Qué fue lo que ocurrió?
Hola Nicolai, pues son hechos en desarrollo, la verdad fue un momento bastante abrumador. Lo que puedo decir de primera mano que vi y que escuché y que presencié fueron 3 disparos en el Hotel Hilton. Estamos en el Hotel Hilton en Washington, D.C. La cena acababa de empezar y en cuanto escuchamos los disparos, varias personas, lo que le dije yo a mi compañero, un corresponsal de la televisión polaca, es como, escuchaste eso, y los dos nos metimos debajo de la mesa y a partir de ahí fueron no sé cuántos segundos de terror y en los que estábamos debajo de la mesa súper atemorizados y las personas diciendo no hagas ruido. Cuando ya no sé exactamente cuánto tiempo pasó, empezamos a salir de debajo de las mesas y empezamos a ver, yo vi personalmente evacuando a todos los secretarios del gabinete de Donald Trump, el secretario de Guerra Pete Hegseth, el secretario, vimos a varios de los integrantes del gabinete también salir de la sala, les preguntamos exactamente qué era lo que estaba pasando y pues desde luego no tenían información. Lo que sé hasta el momento es que el tirador fue controlado por las autoridades, fue abatido, pero no tengo más información de cuáles eran los motivos. Sé que en las afueras de el Hotel Hilton aquí en Washington D.C. había una serie de manifestaciones, varias personas reclamándonos, incluso a los periodistas diciéndonos que por qué no éramos lo que ellos llaman el rechazo a esto de están diciéndonos en este momento que va a haber palabras
Efectivamente, Natalia, lo estamos viendo en directo. Veamos el ambiente a esta hora en el lugar. Acaban de hacer precisamente el anuncio, hay confusión. Natalia, usted reportaba que había manifestaciones, efectivamente así lo registramos durante el día, por parte de activistas, en el caso de Jeffrey Epstein, el delincuente sexual, y también críticos de las políticas del presidente Donald Trump. Usted hablaba también de parte del gabinete que se encontraba en la zona. ¿Alcanzaron a ver al presidente Donald Trump al interior de la cena? Porque reportes indican que el mandatario fue apartado por agentes del servicio secreto, según mostraban las imágenes grabadas hace algunos instantes en el lugar.
Seguramente yo no era el presidente salir, pero el presidente estaba en este mismo salón en el que yo estoy, en el que se...
Precisamente tenemos en la imagen el atril en el que debía intervenir el presidente de los Estados Unidos. Natalia, había mucha expectativa porque el año pasado el mandatario no había asistido a esta cena por las tensiones que sostenía con la prensa. Bien, estamos intentando restablecer la comunicación. Por supuesto, son momentos de mucha confusión, de mucha algarabía en la zona. Ven ustedes los rostros de los periodistas y de quienes asisten a esta ceremonia que se realiza cada año en la capital de Estados Unidos, una ceremonia que traza un encuentro entre la prensa que cubre la información política en Washington y el presidente de los Estados Unidos, una cita a la que sin embargo pues había dejado de asistir el presidente el año pasado en un boicot en plenas tensiones con la prensa de Estados Unidos. Estaremos ampliando la información en nuestros espacios informativos este lunes. Sigan en compañía de nuestra señal. Mucha atención, reportan disparos durante la cena de corresponsales de la Casa Blanca. El presidente Donald Trump y la primera dama Melania Trump fueron sacados apresuradamente del escenario y agentes del Servicio Secreto de Estados Unidos fuertemente armados entraron en acción. El año pasado, el mandatario estadounidense había eludido la cita anual con los periodistas que cubren información de la Casa Blanca en medio de un clima de tensión entre la prensa y su administración. Este año, la gran expectativa era precisamente el retorno del mandatario a esta cita con los periodistas en el centro del poder político en Estados Unidos. Ven ustedes las imágenes en directo. Hay confusión en el lugar donde se desarrollaría la cena con los corresponsales. En las últimas horas ha habido protestas en los alrededores del edificio que alberga el encuentro, manifestantes que rechazaban las políticas de la administración Trump, pero también activistas que denunciaban lo que calificaban de secrecía en el caso del delincuente sexual Jeffrey Epstein y los vínculos que denuncian, enlodan aparentemente al presidente Donald Trump y a otros grandes nombres de la política de Estados Unidos y la economía de ese país. Seguiremos ampliando en nuestros próximos espacios informativos.
É isso aí, certo? Valeu, obrigado aí vocês. Então eles fizeram essa coberturazinha pequenininha, porque eles estão focados no... A NTN é um canal, para mim, de venezuelanos, eles cobrem a América Latina toda, os venezuelanos estão sempre na frente, estão sempre entrando, ficam com uma parte do tempo da cobertura. Então, eles têm ligação com a Venezuela. Falam um monte de verdade na cara dos caras, Maduro, enrostido, coisa e tal. Como o Dercy estava dançando com... Isso aí vai estar no programa que eu vou botar hoje, talvez eu bote até amanhã para não fazer confusão. Mas estava dançando com o povo, tal, como se tivesse tudo muito bem. Não está tudo muito bem. No dia 9 de abril, o povo foi às ruas reclamar, e reclamou feio. No dia 16 de abril, o povo foi até a Embaixada Americana, reclamou feio. Mas tudo bem, tudo tem que ser feito, tem que ser feito. Talvez eles façam como aqui no Brasil, vai para a eleição, certo? Depois aí Mariana Corina Machado estando eleita com todo um secretariado, ela dá uma anistia de verdade, porque isso tem ali é brincadeira. Está que nem a nossa dosimetria. Eu pensei que fosse ser uma anistia de verdade e não é. Tá, isso é o que acontece na Venezuela. Bom, eu vou tirar esse NTN 24 e vamos direto para a Israel TV. Por quê? Porque a Israel TV comenta sobre isso, sobre atentado. Mas a Israel TV vai falar de como estão as negociações de paz. O Trump não foi na reunião. Nos Estados Unidos ele não mandou ninguém. Mas como ele não mandou ninguém? Não mandou ninguém esse fim de semana para Islamabad, capital do Paquistão. Ninguém foi lá negociar. Porque a coisa está complicada e está difícil no Iraque. Como? Ninguém sabe quem manda. Essa é a verdade. Quem é que está mandando? Não, eu vou fazer isso. Aí o cara não consegue cumprir. Então vai ficar conversando com esse cara para quê? Ninguém sabe quem está mandando. Aquilo lá está uma bagunça. E ao que parece, já tem um grupo tentando tomar o poder para poder fazer a paz com todo mundo. É o que ele está esperando. Ele não vai sujar as mãos dele lá, deixa os israelenses brigar à vontade. Eu falo, como as pessoas aqui, a gente fala aqui no Brasil, briguem. Então, deixa eles brigar à vontade. Então, vou te passar já o TV, tá? Então, tem uma análise sobre isso, o acordo. Por que o acordo ficou suspenso? Ele prorrogou o cessar-fogo por 3 semanas. Porque ele está brigando com um cachorro morto, cara. O Irã é um cachorro morto, não tem o que fazer. Pior está Cuba, que só come se levar comida lá. Só tem energia se levar um bom petróleo lá. Dinheiro para comprar ele não tem. Não tem mais explorando nenhum país do mundo. Então vamos resistir, vamos ficar aqui, vamos tentar tomar a Venezuela. A Delcy está lá, a gente toma a Venezuela, está o de Oswaldo Cabello, vamos tomar a Venezuela, eles vão ficar mandando. Você acha que o americano vai aceitar? Trump não é Joe Biden. Isso você tem que botar. Trump não é Joe Biden. Vocês vão ver o discurso dele no final. Vocês vão ver. Primeiro eu vou botar já a TV, depois vou botar o discurso do Trump na Casa Branca, logo após o atentado. Tá? Vocês vão assistir aqui comigo.
Welcome back to ILTV on the Hour. I'm Devo Klein, coming to you live from Israel with all of the latest breaking stories and developments coming out of the region. It's 7 a.m. in New York and 2 p.m. here in Israel, so let's quickly round up all of the latest breaking news. We begin with the assassination attempt of the President of the United States. Secret security agents jumped into action at last night's White House Correspondents' event when a gunman opened fire at administration officials. President Trump, First Lady Melania, and Vice President J.D. Vance were all swiftly evacuated from the scene, and the gunman was neutralized. Now, according to President Trump, only a Secret Service officer's vest suffered a blow from the gunfire. The officer, though, was only lightly injured. Now, the shooter has now been identified as Cole Thomas Allen, 31, from California, who is now being revealed as a teacher and a video game software developer. He was arrested at the scene and taken into police custody. An FBI investigation is ongoing to uncover Thomas Allen's motive, and we await further details as this story is still developing. Now, meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu commented that he was shocked to hear of the attempted assassination, sent well wishes to the injured officer, and praised U.S. Secret Service for their swift and decisive action. And now a clip from a Fox News interview is now resurfacing as White House Press Secretary Karen Leavitt was quoted saying that, quote, shots will be fired just minutes before the assassination attempt occurred. Now, Leavitt, of course, was referring to figurative shots being fired by the president as jabs or insults, not actual gunfire. But this clip is definitely interesting, to say the least. Take a look.
To rumble, is he not?
He is ready to rumble. I will tell you, this speech tonight will be classic Donald J. Trump. It'll be funny. It'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room. So everyone should tune in. It's going to be really great. I'm looking forward to hearing it.
I love it all. And you wrote most of it, you said.
I can't take credit. In true Donald Trump fashion, the man puts his pen to the paper himself. So it's a lot of his own work.
Interesting indeed. And meanwhile, in Lebanon, the ceasefire between Israel and the terror group Hezbollah is unraveling. Despite President Trump's announcement of a 3-week extension to the ceasefire, Prime Minister Netanyahu has ordered the IDF to vigorously attack Hezbollah targets in Lebanon with great force. According to the PMO, the announcement came after repeated violations over the weekend, with Hezbollah firing rockets and drones toward Israeli civilians. President Trump remains adamant that negotiations are proceeding to maintain the ceasefire, saying that he plans to host Prime Minister Netanyahu and Lebanese President Joseph Aoun in Washington in the coming weeks. But on the ground, the Israeli response to the violations are intensifying. The IDF says it struck 2 loaded and ready-to-fire launchers and eliminated 3 terrorists who attempted to target Israeli forces in southern Lebanon. In a separate incident, an explosive drone was launched at IDF troops, prompting strikes on terror infrastructure in the area. And in Binjbil, paratroopers of the 98th Division eliminated 6 Hezbollah terrorists engaging in terror activities, with no casualties reported among Israeli forces. The ceasefire extension is still officially in place, but at this point, it remains name only. And meanwhile, the negotiations between the United States and Iran have also seen better days. President Trump has now called off a planned trip of top negotiators Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner to Islamabad, Pakistan. The cancellation is seen as a sign that talks remain stalled, with both sides far from agreeing on key issues, including Iran's nuclear program and control of the Strait of Hormuz. According to Trump, however, the United States holds all the cards. Take a quick listen to some of his latest remarks.
Okay, you probably heard that we canceled the trip. We have all the cards. We're not going to spend 15 hours in airplanes all the time going back and forth to be giving a document that was not good enough. And so we'll deal by telephone, and they can call us anytime they want. Again, we have all the cards. They have no military left, practically. They have no leaders left. We don't know who the leaders are. Nobody knows who the leader. I don't think they know who the leaders are, very importantly. So you saw that.
Now, key issues still remain in the negotiating process, and the Strait of Hormuz is still closed as economic pressure continues to mount and no solution is in sight. The fate of the talks remain a mystery. And so joining me now to discuss all of this is our panel of experts. I am pleased to welcome to the show Catherine Perez Shakdam, Executive Director of We Believe in Israel, a veteran journalist and an expert in Arab affairs, and Ahmed Quraishi, a specialist in national security, also a veteran journalist and expert in Arab and Middle East affairs. Thank you both so much for coming.
Pleasure.
So, Catherine, let me start with you. The messaging at this point in the war is incredibly confusing, but the one thing that does seem to be more or less clear with this negotiation process is that neither President Trump nor the Islamic regime has any desire to restart this war. Do you agree with that assessment? And if yes, where does that leave us?
Well, look, I would say this. President Trump has no interest in restarting the war as long as the Islamic Republic complies with his wishes, which is to basically give it up. Now, I don't think that the RGC, even though, because we are talking about the RGC when we talk about the Islamic Republic, has no intention in restarting the war, but they have no intention in allowing the US to get what they want, which is the end of them. And I don't see them doing this anytime soon for the very simple reason that they do not want to lose power. They do not want to see what happens once they give up, because I'm pretty sure that the Iranian people will not forget anytime soon what is it that they have done to them for decades and decades. And so they are faced with a very difficult decision. I think they're agonizing about the fact that they are dying and that there's no way out of this one. So I do believe that the war will restart. And I am waiting impatiently for them to give up, or to be made to give up, because quite frankly, enough already.
So, Catherine, if you do think that the war will restart, can I just elaborate and ask you again, who do you think will be firing those first shots?
I think the US will, quite frankly. Look, they are facing a blockade. They are hemorrhaging money. They have no way to sell their oil or energy anymore, since China has been put on the spot and told not to anymore. They don't have a way out. There is no way that they could find anyone in Iran right now to support them. I mean, those who do have given up because there's no money to go around. Hezbollah, I mean, their proxies are done and done and done. If we look at Lebanon, if we look at Gaza, or even Judea and Samaria, there is no more Hamas to support the Islamic Republic. And the Houthis, again, are not complying anymore, or at least they have no intention to do so anymore, because there's no more money. So the RGC is very much alone on this. So we'll see. But yes, I think that the war will restart, and the US will do that for us.
And Ahmed, do you agree with Catherine's sentiment, or do you have a differing opinion?
Yes, I kind of agree with Catherine, actually, because I go by actions, and actions actually show me that the U.S. has this huge military deployment in the region. That is, of course, a show of force, but it has been used, so it can be used again, so it's quite obvious. And number two is, I think President Trump is also very smartly sort of playing the internal dynamics of the Iranian regime. So he's sort of, I would say, stoking the internal conflict, and that's very interesting to watch, because the repeated statements that come from him commenting on who's in charge and who's not, and the internal squabbles and conflict. I think it is designed to actually exacerbate those internal divisions, and that's very interesting because we've also watched the Pakistani military chief, who went for the first time actually in 50 years for any Pakistani leader or senior official to be in Tehran for 3 days and stay put on the ground and try to meet everyone who is in a position to make decisions or take decisions during war. And he met almost everyone except for, of course, obviously the new supreme leader. And we have not seen any visuals. Of course, the Iranian regime media has been very transparent in terms of who he was meeting on the Iranian side, and they were putting out all the visuals and the photos, except for, of course, the one with the supreme leader, and also except for any meeting with the leaders, the new leaders of the IRGC. So from both of these things, the President Trump's repeated talks about internal divisions in Tehran, and the meetings that the Pakistani leader, the military commander, had in Tehran, my assessment is very much close to what just Catherine said. I feel that we are headed toward possible military action if really nothing comes out of what's about to happen in the next few hours.
And I actually want to dig a little bit deeper in all this talk and what's going on inside the regime. And Catherine, I want to take this back to you because Trump did recently say in the clip that we played earlier that even the regime in Iran itself doesn't really know who's in charge, who's calling the shots. Do you think that these claims, in your opinion, hold any water? And let's say that were the case, then who are these hardliners that supposedly came into power following the elimination of the previous Iranian officials like Mujtaba Khamenei? If there are hardliners, then what positions do they hold and where do they stand within the government of the IRGC?
Okay, so it's a lot of questions. Look, as far as Mujtaba Khamenei is concerned, I think that, look, rumors have circulated online and in certain quarters that Mujtaba Khamenei has been dead for quite some time, that he was killed right along his fathers. Then we had the jokes and the memes that came out with, the little cartoon boxes things, and no pictures of him. Apparently, according to Sky or CNN, I'm not quite sure, he wrote a delightful letter demonstrating that he had all his mental capacity. Look, I think that the gentleman is no longer. This is my personal opinion. I don't think that anyone will cry too much or mourn him for that matter. I'm sure that the IRGC are quite desperate to find a leader that can stand up. Unfortunately for them, both Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump have made sure that the top of the pyramid is no longer. And they have gutted the IRGC leadership, which is great. It's fantastic for the free world, if I'm honest. I would like the international community to join in and realize that backing the IRGC is not a clever strategy, that they will very soon, I hope, not blood the skies of Iran and allow for Iranians to suffer any more than they have to. Now, yes, so who's in charge? Good question. They're not quite sure themselves. I'm going to be honest. I don't think that they know, because you keep hearing different things from different people, especially when it comes to the peace talk, who's coming, who's going, who's supposed to make a decision. So I think it really proves to us and the rest of the world that both Israel and the US have done their job well. Because when a dictatorship, or I'd rather say a theocracy, is not capable of pointing out to its leadership, or those who are right under the leadership in terms of direction, it really shows you that they're just about to die. And again, I'm not crying. I don't think that anyone in Israel is crying. Anyone in America should be crying. As to the rest of the world, I don't know. You need to ask them.
It's definitely also what Trump.
Vou dar uma paradinha. Tem 2 recados aqui que só posso botar quando acabar, para não tampar aqui a legenda que aparece para os outros lerem. E lembrando a vocês, depois do dia 10, provavelmente vai estar tudo dublado, viu? Estou acertando com uma IA aí para fazer a dublagem rápida também. Só que o primeiro preço que me pediram foi um absurdo, mas a gente vai conversar e vai botar no ar. Tchau, tchau.
Is saying Trump is already using the words regime change by basically saying that, we've eliminated all of these top officials. And so the regime is different. It has changed. But that goes back to my point with the hardliners, because essentially if you're just replacing, radicals with even more radical people, then not only has regime change not been achieved, the people of Iran will continue suffering, but the regime itself is actually built very strategically to withstand these eliminations, to keep having a line of succession, to keep replacing these hardliners. Ahmed, I want to turn this question over to you now. What do you think of the current status and the form of the Islamic regime, the IRGC? Where do they stand? And do you think that maybe potentially there could be regime change at this point?
Yes, I agree with your assessment that this regime is really built to sustain itself and survive. Even if all of the current crop of top leadership is eliminated, they have that, the horizontal setup. One more thing that's very interesting we should understand is that the IRGC is actually divided into the exact number of provinces that exist in Iran. So for every province, there's a local IRGC setup. So whereas you have the IRGC, the national leadership of the IRGC, you have the Quds Force, obviously, that's looking after the external activities of this paramilitary. You have IRGC units for every province that are controlling each province. And then within that IRGC, you have things like the Basij paramilitary, which has its own internal divisions for every city and town in that province. So in effect, what you have is you have IRGC really divided across all of the provinces, and then within each of the provinces, for the number of cities and towns in each province, you have besieged forces that control that. Actually, the control of the besieged goes down to the level of a family unit. So so they really have information as to the family units that exist in each city within a province within the country. And so it's a very effective control mechanism that the IRGC has on the country. And so you can imagine that they're very much ready, I think, for decapitation operations. And that makes it really very, very dangerous. And that's why we've seen, for example, if you recall, right after, on April 8th, after the ceasefire, we still had 24 hours of ongoing attacks from various IRGC units toward the Gulf countries. It took them time to really get the orders and to know that there's a ceasefire in place. Almost exactly 24 hours for them. So this is really very dangerous. What I hear from the various security sources in the region who have very good expertise on Iran and they've been following Iran is that, this has been powerful, the decapitation, no question about it. Very powerful also the elimination of the Iranian air defense systems and whatever setups that they had. Very powerful again, but the control of the IRGC, the besieged, its various units on the ground is very, very strong. It's going to be a struggle. Let's see how it unfolds, but they remain very strong, the IRGC within the country. And I conclude by just saying that I have no doubt, regardless of who's in charge right now in Tehran, we can all agree on one point. The IRGC are in charge. I mean, we can disagree on exactly the individuals, whether it's General Wahidi or someone else, but it's quite clear the IRGC is in charge and they will be for the foreseeable future. It's going to be and that's why you see, despite the fact that thousands and thousands of Iranians coming out on the streets, they've been unable so far to sort of unsettle this control, this grip that the IRGC has on Iran. It's really tragic for the Iranian people, but it's also very scary for the region.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that statement. Now, we are almost out of time, but I did want to take the time to ask you both about the Strait of Hormuz, because that issue is still ongoing. It's closed, and that is understood. But my question is, who is really closing it? Is it the Iranian Navy blocking and seizing ships, or is it the American Navy with their blockade? Because we're kind of hearing reports of both happening. Catherine, what can you tell us about the Strait of Hormuz?
Okay, so I'm going to start saying that I believe that President Trump made sure at the very beginning I think he wanted to expose the regime for what it is and what the rest of the world was risking should they not back this effort, so that they would hold us hostage by using the Strait of Hormuz as kind of a leverage. So he forced them into a corner knowing that they would close it, and they did. And I think that following that, and the first round of talks that led to basically nowhere, he decided to close it himself and to regain power and flip the narrative against the regime. And it worked, because now they actually cornered themselves, but at the same time they started it. And so I would say that the first shot was shot by the regime, and President Trump is making sure that he's going to be the last one doing it. So I think it's necessary. Again, we woke up the Arab world to the reality that is the regime, and realizing that they're not friendly, that they may have pretended to be, and that diplomacy may have run its course. And I think that Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and the rest of the GCC countries have understood that, not just because they've been missiles raining from the sky, but also because Iran proved to be, or at least the Islamic Republic, proved to be an enemy and of stability. And so new routes will need to be open, and hopefully the strait quite soon. But I think it's down to President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu to decide when that would be.
Mm-hmm. And Ahmed, your final thoughts on the Strait of Hormuz and what's going on over there?
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of focus on what the U.S. is doing in terms of the blockade, and not enough on the fact that the Iranians actually have been first to blockade the Hormuz and stop activity on the Gulf Arab side. And that's what I hear from Gulf Arab sources. And they've actually reached out to the Pakistanis and told them that this concern of ours should be front and center in the second round of talks with the Iranians, with the Americans. And they say basically there's not enough talk about, the fact, Iran is protesting that the U.S. is violating whatever laws because it's blockading Iranian ports, but there's not enough focus really on the fact that Iran, for more than 50 days or close to 2 months, is blockading our ports. What about that? What about the violation of whatever international laws with regards to the blockade enforced on us by Iran? So, and I understand from the Pakistani side that this concern, the Pakistanis have actually put forward, and as you know, Pakistan is bound by various very strong military agreements with various Gulf partners. The most clear one among them is, of course, the Mutual Defense Pact with the Saudis, but there's also very close with the UAE and with the Qatar and with the Kuwait and Bahrain, close military ties. And I understand also that the Pakistanis have privately also conveyed, and in fact, they said it openly, actually, it's no longer private, to the Iranians that, if these rounds, if this Pakistani negotiation, the US-backed Pakistani negotiation does not work, that Pakistan would be forced to join action with its Gulf partners if it comes to that.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like there's so much more for us to discuss, but we are unfortunately out of time. Catherine Parrish-Akdam and Ahmed Qureshi, thank you both so much for coming on the show and giving us your insights today.
Thank you.
Bye.
And now an interesting story is unfolding in the Palestinian-controlled West Bank and the Gaza Strip, where municipality elections were taking place for the first time since the start of the Gaza war. Inside the Gaza Strip in particular, elections have not been held at any capacity since the Hamas takeover in 2007, making this development unprecedented in many facets. One of them is that these elections inside Gaza were being held only in Deir al-Balach, that's a city in central Gaza where infrastructure has suffered significantly less from the fighting with Hamas and the IDF, and where only a handful of residents were able to actually vote. Take a listen.
تزامن هذه الخطوة مع الاختراع وعملية الانتخاب في الضفة الغربية. هذا الرمز السياسي مهم جدا في ظل الحديث عن فصل قطاع غزة عن باقي الأراضي الفلسطينية. هذه رسالة للعالم أن هنا قطاع غزة وحدة والضفة الغربية وحدة جغرافية واحدة، وبالتالي على العالم أن يعلم أنه نحن مصرون على اتباع سبل الديمقراطية والتداول السلمي للسلطة من خلال هذه الانتخابات.
PA President Mahmoud Abbas cast his ballot in Ramallah. Take a listen to his remarks.
لا يتجزأ من دولة فلسطين، ولذلك عمدنا بكل الوسائل على أن تكون في دير البلح انتخابات لنؤكد وحدة شطري البلد مع بعضهم البعض، وسيتم هذا على أمل أنه عندما تهدأ الأمور تتم الانتخابات في كل قطاع غزة.
Hamas did not formally participate, though some candidates were seen as informally aligned with the group. The outcome is being closely watched as a gauge of public sentiment and Hamas's standing after the war. And so joining me now to discuss all of this is Itamar Marcus of Palestinian Media Watch. Itamar, it's always nice to have you on the show to break down some of these complicated headlines. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you very much for being here.
So to start, there's a lot of talk of the symbolism in these elections, and with a turnout of around 50% to the ballots in Judea and Samaria or the West Bank, and about a 20 to 23% turnout of the 70,000 eligible voters in Deir al-Balach. How do you analyze the significance of these elections, and do you think they are purely symbolic, or is there actual action in these elections?
Well, I wouldn't use the word symbolic, I would use the word political. This is not an expression of Palestinian democracy. It wasn't intended as an expression of Palestinian democracy. It was intended as an expression, and we heard it from Mahmoud Abbas himself. This is to show that the Palestinian Authority is still the future ruler of the Gaza Strip. That is, of course, one of the major testing points between Israel and the international community and the Palestinian Authority. And Israel has said the Palestinian Authority will not rule in Gaza. I think the whole purpose for even the municipal elections was to tell the international community, look, we can put together a democratic elections. And two, Gaza is part of the Palestinian Authority. So it has nothing to do with a desire for democracy. It has to do with a desire for showing political control. Now, I'll even go a step further. If they really wanted a democracy, they would have let Hamas participate as an equal participant in this election. We know Hamas is much more popular both in Judea and Samaria and Gaza. And what the Palestinian Authority did is they announced that in order to run in the elections, you have to accept all the original deals that the PLO has made, which means recognize Israel. So they wouldn't say Hamas can't run, but they said you have to recognize Israel if you're going to run, which Hamas cannot do on principle. So the whole purpose of the election was not to show democracy, which the Palestinian Authority is afraid of because Hamas is so strong, but it was an attempt to tell the Europeans, the main partners, look, we do have a democracy and we're in control of the Gaza Strip.
So what is the status of the Palestinian Authority when it comes to these reforms, these much needed reforms that were, a base of all the peace deals and the ceasefire agreements that came about in the Gaza war? Trump's Board of Peace, the International Stabilization Force, these are all contingent on these very necessary reforms in the Palestinian Authority. So where does that stand with all of these elections going on? Have they been made or not quite?
They haven't made any substantial reforms at all. What they've done are superficial reforms. For example, on one of the major, I would say, friction points with the international community is that they reward terrorists with monthly salaries. And what they did is they changed the framework for rewarding the terrorists, and they were not rewarding them based on how long they're in prison anymore, but they're rewarding them a set fee, a set monthly payment, which they're getting every month. So this, and the tragedy is that the international community is looking for any excuse to accept the Palestinian Authority in spite of their terrorist support, in spite of their glorification of terror, so that the Palestinian Authority has not stopped what's known as pay for slay. And the international community had a meeting just last week, and the foreign minister of the Norwegian government made the announcement that they've stopped the pay for slay, which of course isn't true. In fact, PMW released a report and showed that in addition to the payment of the prisoners that are in prison, the terrorists that are in prison with a monthly salary, there are those who've been released from prison, and those have been getting literally hundreds of millions of dollars a year, all through 2025. But again, the irony here is that the international community, which has been looking the other way for so many years, and they're desperate to create a Palestinian state that's going to be a threat to Israel and to every Israeli citizen. For some reason, they are looking away and they're pretending that there has been reform, even though there's only this one tiny symbolic reform that they've done, and not even completely within pay for slay.
And Itamar, we literally have just 30 seconds left, but really quickly, is there anything that Israel can do in the situation? Where does Israel stand?
Israel has to expose, where PMW is releasing a report very shortly on the number of different terrorists who've been glorified in April 2026 by the Palestinian Authority. And we hope that the Israeli government will make good use of this. I'm sure they will, to show the international community when you put terrorist murderers of children, mass murderers of 125 people, and you put them as Palestinian heroes, then don't come to us and say they made some symbolic change in pay for slay. They still are a terror-supporting entity.
Absolutely. So with that, we do unfortunately have to end this interview. I always love going along with you, Itamar, but we are out of time, so we have to cap it. But thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
And really quickly, before we wrap up, a cute story to end our broadcast. A plane carrying 250 new immigrants has touched down in Israel. They belong to the B'nai Menashe community. That is a community that's derived of the old biblical Menashe tribe, one of the 12 lost tribes of Israel, in a broader initiative to bring the community back home to Israel. These first 200 immigrants will reunite with some of the immigrants who have already made it to Israel in northern Israel, and the broader campaign is expected to facilitate the aliyah of nearly 6,000 members of the community by 2030. So some good news on that front. And that is a wrap for this edition of ILTV on the Hour, broadcasting live from Israel and the heart of the Middle East. You can scan the QR code on your screen to get more of all of the latest updates. But in the meantime, I'm Devo Klein, and I want to thank you so much for watching.
Isso aí, tá vendo? Interessantíssimo. Eu achei de terminar isso porque, primeiro, mostra uma eleição na Palestina. Embora o analista não acredite, desculpa, é a gripe que eu tô. Embora o analista não acredite, isso vai mudar muita coisa. Há uma eleição, há uma escolha, há um caminho a seguir sem guerra. E eles têm que disputar. Vão ficar com os terroristas ou não? Há muita rusga, há muito ressentimento, lado a lado. Agora tem que superar. Isso eles têm que fazer isso. O cara me deu bom trabalho. Calma, meu amigo, agora tu vai entrar. Agora eu posso botar você aqui. Deixa eu tirar isso aqui. Cadê eu? Não estou aqui, não estou aqui. Não tô aqui, aqui, ó. Então, ó, primeiro, Carlos, oi. Agora, boa tarde. Bom trabalho. Para você também, bom trabalho. A gente está aqui trabalhando para fazer das notícias da verdade. Tem mais like, tem likezinho aqui, ó. Eliane Veloso. É isso? Eliane Velosa. Esse aió aqui, pequenininho, sabe? Mas Eliane ou Eliane? Eliane. Tá? Obrigado, Eliane, pelo like aí no Facebook. Você deixou um like aí, a gente vê aqui agora. Tá? Então, a ideia, eu vou mostrar isso para vocês, porque, primeiro, a migrante. Muita gente pode ver, tem até brasileiro ali no meio. Colônia forte, colônia judia. Eu quero morar lá. Vai morar lá, oportunidade tem. Eu tenho mais oportunidade do que aqui. É completamente diferente, é um clima bom, você vê eles dançando, recebendo as pessoas com alegria. Tá aí, bem ou mal, a Palestina está votando. Se está votando, quer dizer, nem sempre o chefe terrorista vai ganhar a eleição. É isso que eu queria dizer para vocês. Deixa eu tirar aqui, tirei. Bem, só uma explicação que eu não dei. Foram dados 3 tiros no atentado contra o Trump. O primeiro tiro foi do cara que adentrou pelo primeiro salão, ainda tinha um segundo salão. Ele chegou na beira do primeiro salão, encontrou o segurança pela frente e deu um tiro no segurança. O segurança não morreu, está bem porque estava de colete. A bala pegou no colete. Deram 2 tiros em cima dele, ele caiu, não foi ferido, mas ele caiu, sei lá, pular. Ele já entra. Você vê que quando ele passa correndo, ele passa escorregando, né? Quer dizer, ele já não vinha legal. Bateu de cara com segurança, deu um tiro no cara, parece que caiu, deram mais 2 tiros, ele ficou parado e aí pegaram ele. Foram os 3 tiros que aconteceram. Isso tudo vai gerar o quê? Depois disso, um instantinho, quem vai para a Casa Branca dar uma entrevista? Donald Trump. Fala aí, Trump. Conta aí tudo o que você viu, o que você achou e o que você sentiu nisso aí. Deixa eu tirar aqui o Carlos. Obrigado, Carlos, pelas 3 mensagens.
Very much. That was very unexpected, but incredibly acted upon by Secret Service and law enforcement. And this was an event dedicated to freedom of speech that was supposed to bring together members of both parties with members of the press. And in a certain way it did, because the fact that they just unified, I saw a room that was just totally unified. It was in one way, very beautiful, a very beautiful thing to see a man charge a security checkpoint armed with multiple weapons. And he was taken down by some very brave members of Secret Service, and they acted very quickly and have just released, for purposes of transparency, clarity, I've ordered it to be put out. You probably have it by now. Put out on Truth and put out on many other platforms. A tape showing the violence of this thug that attacked our Constitution, and also showing how quickly Secret Service and law enforcement acted on our country's behalf. Really did a great job. One officer was shot, but saved by the fact that he was wearing obviously a very good bulletproof vest. He was shot from very close distance with a very powerful gun, and the vest did the job. I just spoke to the officer, and he's doing great. He's in great shape. He is has very high spirits, and we told him we love him and respect him. And he's a very proud guy. He's very proud of what he does, Secret Service agent. And we looked at all of the conditions that took place tonight, and I will say, you know, it's not a particularly secure building. And I didn't want to say this, but this is why we have to have all of the attributes of what we're planning at the White House. It's actually a larger room, and it's much more secure. It's drone proof, it's bulletproof glass. We need the ballroom. That's why Secret Service, that's why the military are demanding it. They've wanted the ballroom for 150 years for lots of different reasons, but today's a little bit different, because today we need levels of security that probably nobody's ever seen before. But everyone owes a tremendous debt of gratitude to the courage of law enforcement, the law enforcement, and working with the DC police. And we just spoke with the mayor. And when we're finished, the police chief is going to take over and discuss it also from their viewpoint. But they also performed exactly as they were supposed to. And you see the attacker in different positions, but you also see the attacker totally subdued and under control. So as you know, this is not the first time in the past couple of years that our republic has been attacked by a would-be assassin who sought to kill. In Butler, Pennsylvania, less than 2 years ago, you all know that story. And in Palm Beach, Florida, a few months after that, we came close. We really had, again, we had some great work done by law enforcement. But in light of this evening's events, I ask that all Americans recommit with their hearts in resolving our difference peacefully. We have to resolve our differences. I will say, you had Republicans, Democrats, independents, conservatives, liberals, and progressives. Those words are interchangeable, perhaps, but maybe they're not. But yet everybody in that room, big crowd, record-setting crowd. There was a record-setting group of people. And there was a tremendous amount of love and coming together. I watched, and I was very, very impressed by that. But we were, First Lady and I were taken very well care of, very quickly rushed off the stage. Vice President J.D. Vance, who's here, was likewise beautifully done. He was just saying how quickly everybody acted, law enforcement, Secret Service in particular in this case, but law enforcement. Marco had the same thing. Pete was there. Pete didn't want any help. He didn't want anybody to help. He doesn't want anybody to help him, but he did get some, didn't you? And I think you also said that it was very impressive. So with that, I'd like to ask Todd Blanche to come up, say a few words, and tell you it's already underway. The man has been captured. They're going to his apartment. I guess he lives in California, and he's a sick person, a very sick person. And we don't want things like this to happen. I think it's very important that I say, though, and I told the representatives of the evening, they did such a beautiful job with such a beautiful evening. And again, they're talking about free speech in our Constitution. That's what it's all about, not just White House correspondence. It was really based on free speech in our Constitution. But I said very importantly that we'll do it again within the next 30 days, and we'll make it bigger and better and even nicer. So I just want to thank everybody that was involved. I also want to thank the press, the media, You've been very responsible in your coverage. I will say I've been seeing what's been out. You've been very responsible. So Todd Blanche, I'd like to say a few words. I know we're going to have cash, and then you're going to go on. We can ask. I guess we can take a couple of questions. I want to thank the First Lady for that was a rather traumatic experience for her. There was a lot of action taking place up there very quickly, but again, the response time was really incredible. And we're going to reschedule. We're going to do it again. We're not going to let anybody take over our society. We're not going to cancel things out because we can't do that. We wanted to stay tonight. I will tell you, I fought like hell to stay, but it was protocol. They said, please, sir, because they didn't know there was a lot of action going on, and they didn't know, could there be probably a lone shooter, but we'll find out. We'll find out very quickly. They have it very well under control. So I want to thank everybody very much. And Todd Blanche, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Tonight you saw the very worst and the very best of this country. You saw the very worst by the actions of that coward that the president just talked about. But you also saw the very best because you saw law enforcement do exactly what they're supposed to do. And you'll see the videos come out, I expect, very shortly, and you'll see law enforcement do exactly what we want them to do. And so I echo what President Trump just said, that we are extraordinarily grateful and appreciative of the men and women of law enforcement that did their jobs tonight, including one who was injured. This investigation is ongoing. I expect you will see charges filed shortly. The charges should be self-evident given the conduct, but as you'll hear, there will be multiple charges surrounding the shooting, around the possession of firearms, and anything else that we can get on this guy. The investigation is obviously ongoing and just started. There is federal law enforcement already working on search warrants and doing their job, and I don't want to get ahead of them and don't want to get ahead of the work that they're doing even as we speak. Director Patel and I were just on the crime scene a short while ago, and everybody in this room should rest assured that the Metropolitan Police Department, the FBI, Secret Service, everybody's on the scene doing their job. I know that the police chief is going to give an update from the scene as soon as we're finished here, and I obviously will lead the details of what they have learned to him. But in the meantime, I just want to thank everybody in this room for the courage. And I want to thank President Trump for his words, and I promise you, justice will be served. Thank you, Dr. Patel.
Thank you, General. Thank you, Mr. President. The president's absolutely right. You saw the best resolve of American law enforcement because you, Mr. President, inspire them 24/7, 365. You give them the resources that they need, and they know that you have their back. And that is a changing dynamic in this country. And that's why you saw brave Secret Service agents respond immediately, swiftly, subdue and take down the suspect and safeguard the lives of thousands of individuals at that hotel. Thanks to our interagency partnership with the Department of Homeland Security and the Metropolitan Police Department, the FBI was rapidly deployed onto the scene, took over the evidence response unit, is examining all the ballistics that were found on scene to include the long gun and the shell casings. We are conducting witness interviews as we speak. You will hear from our team on the scene there with the mayor and the head of the FBI field division there. But please know what the Attorney General has just said reigns no truer. You saw the very best of America tonight. The very best unite us at a time of uncertainty because we have leadership here with the president and the vice president that backs law enforcement, and the men and women that I shook their hands on the scene today could not have been prouder to show up on scene. And as the Attorney General said, make no mistake, we are conducting witness interviews. If you have any information whatsoever related to this event, 1-800-CALL-FBI, 1-800-CALL-FBI. No piece of information is too small. No piece of information is inadequate. We will evaluate it all. We will also be conducting interviews of those that were there. And if any of those individuals have information, please come forward to law enforcement or the FBI or the Metropolitan Police Department. We will be examining this individual's background thoroughly. That process has already started, and we are going to ensure that he was either a lone wolf actor or anyone else that was responsible. We will analyze all evidence immediately to make sure that we safeguard this country. Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, thank you for your leadership. Attorney General and Homeland Secretary Marlin, thank you for your partnership in law enforcement.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do a couple and then we go to the chair. Madam Chairman. Oh, I just want to say you did a fantastic job. What a beautiful evening, and we're going to reschedule. Okay. And after that, it's very tough for her to ask a killer question, right? But you have done a fantastic job. Please.
Mr. President, I appreciate it. As you mentioned, it all happened so quickly.
Yeah.
And I wonder, especially because unfortunately you have experience with these sorts of threats, in that moment when you realized there was a threat and service agents were telling us to get down, can you describe what was going through your mind, how you were feeling in that moment?
That's a very good question. Actually, it's always shocking when something like this happens. It's happened to me a little bit, and that never changes. The fact we're sitting right next to each other, First Lady on my right, and I heard a noise and sort of thought it was a tray. I thought it was a tray going down. You know, I've heard that many times, and it was a pretty loud noise. And it was from quite far away. He hadn't breached the area at all. They really got him. But so it was quite far away, but it was a gun. And some people really understood that pretty quickly. Other people didn't. I was watching to see what was happening. Probably should have gone down even faster. Melania was very cognizant, I think, of what happened. I think she knew immediately what happened. She was saying, it's a bad noise. And we were whisked away along with other people, but we were really whisked away. And again, the performance of the Secret Service and the police, all of the law enforcement, I thought was really good. So it was very quick. There wasn't a lot of time to be thinking because it was a matter of seconds before we were out the door and gone into an area. We very much, and you wanted to too, we very much wanted to continue it because I don't like to let these sick people, these thugs, these horrible, horrible people change the fabric of our life, change the course of what we do. So we held out. You were there. We held out right till the end, but they didn't want to take a chance, and I understand there was protocol. But we're going to be doing one hopefully within the next 30 days or sooner, and I am ready, willing, and able. And I was all set to really rip it. And I said to my people, this would be the most inappropriate speech ever made if I said one. So I'll have to save it. I don't know if I could ever be as rough as I was going to be tonight. I think I'm going to be probably very nice. I'll be very boring the next time, but we're going to have a great event. And you did a fantastic job. Thank you very much. Peter, go ahead.
Thank you, President Trump. There's a report in the New York Post that this assailant assembled his weapon somewhere on site at the hotel. What do you think about that? And I ask respectfully, why do you think this keeps happening to you?
Well, you know, I've studied assassinations, and I must tell you, the most impactful people, the people that do the most, you take a look at the people, Abraham Lincoln, I mean, you go through the people that have gone through this where they got them, but the people that do the most, the people that make the biggest impact, they're the ones that they go after. They don't go after the ones that don't do much because they like it that way. And when you look at the people that have either, whether it was an attempt or a successful attempt, they're very impactful people. Just take a look at the names there, the big names. And I hate to say I'm honored by that, but I've done a lot. We've done a lot. We've taken this country, and we were a laughing stock for years, and now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We've changed this country, and there are a lot of people that are not happy about that. So I think that's the answer, Peter.
And after Butler, your team for a while rethought outdoor events.
Yeah.
Do you think that you now need to rethink
No.
indoor?
Well, but then you just don't do events. No, I can't do that. I have to. It is what it is. We have to do it. The room was very, very secure. You know, he charged from 50 yards away, so he was very far away from the room.
And what do you think when you saw the video of how fast he was running?
He was moving. He was really moving. And the reaction time was great. Boy, those guys, they had their guns drawn literally by the time he was there. They were shooting.
That's right.
I thought they were very impressive. And if I didn't, I'd let you know. I'm not going to be I would not stand for that. No, I thought they were very impressive.
Thank you, President Trump, and thank you for updating us on the suspect earlier. Were you aware of any threats? Was your team aware of any threats beforehand? And do you believe you were the target of this tonight?
I guess. I mean, these people they're crazy. They're crazy. And, you know, you never know. He was very far away from me. He had to go through a lot. We had resources all over. We had resources sitting at tables, literally in disguise, sitting maybe at your table, who knows? But we had people all over the room, so he had a long way to go. That was really a first line of defense, and they got him. And they really, you know, they acted incredibly. No, there was no notification. We had no idea. Go ahead,
Do you know
Kevin.
any political motivations from this?
Well, you never know. Now, we'll be able to tell you that maybe by tomorrow or the next day. You know, he's in custody, and they're asking him a lot of questions. I guess they're going over, Todd, and they're already at his apartment. He lives in California.
Yes, sir.
And they're over there, so they'll be able to tell you. Thank you, Caitlin.
President Trump, did the suspect say anything, or was he wearing anything that would allege some type of motive here?
No, I mean, he was a guy who looked pretty evil when he was down. You know, they had him down. He was fighting hard. He was in my opinion, a sick person. Who would do that but a sick person? But I think you're going to find everything about him. No reason to talk about it now. But tomorrow at this time, long before this time, you're going to know a lot of things about him. They seem to think he was a lone wolf, and I feel that too.
Are you concerned about U.S. Secret Service protection ability? We saw several of the detainees take minutes to be escorted out the room.
No, they acted very quickly. No, I was very impressed by Secret Service. I mean, I'm the one, and Mark Wayne, you would agree with that, I think. Absolutely. I'm the one that would complain. You don't have to complain for me. I would be complaining. I'd be up here right now saying they didn't do their job. Oh, believe me, because, you know, it's my life. And I want to live because I want to make this country great. That's why I want to live. But when you're impactful, they go after you. When you're not impactful, they leave you alone. Okay, a couple of more. Go ahead, please.
Is there any indication that this shooting could have been linked to the war in Iran?
I don't think so, but you never know. We're going to know a lot. We have the best people in the world working on it, and we're going to know a lot. Please.
Mr. President, there's a lot. There's you, as well as some of us who have covered Butler, experienced another horrific day 2 years ago.
Yeah.
What felt similar? You know, you had the First Lady with you today. What felt different? And you have another 2+ years in office. Are you concerned about something like this happening
Well, I
again?
can't be concerned. I can only get great people. They did the job, in my opinion, a much better job than Butler. Butler had one weak spot that we all know about. Somebody should have been up there. But even Butler, we had our sniper on our side within 4.2 seconds from a distance of about 400 yards, one shot, and he was gone. And if he didn't do it now, you know, he's David. His name was David. I say, hello, David, every time I see him. David, I like you very much, David. But think of that. Now, if he doesn't hit him, and he hit him right between the eyes from 400 yards without any notice, nobody knew. He heard a sound. He looked over, and there was actually a tree that was somewhat in his way. You know the story very well. And he aimed, he fired. And if he didn't do that, beyond me, you would have had a lot more people killed. We lost one great person and 2 people very badly hurt. They're okay now. But no, that was so in a sense, you know, that was pretty amazing, the job they did. But they did have that one weak spot. As you know, they should have had that covered. Tonight, they had everything covered very quickly. And he was fast. He was running full blast, and they got him before they got any further. I was very far away. You know, he hadn't anywhere close to breach the doors of the ballroom. The ballroom was sealed, and everybody in there. That's why once those doors opened, they didn't want to do tonight. If the doors weren't opened, we could have probably done it tonight. But I think we're much better off rescheduling. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, for you and perhaps law enforcement as well, what is the level of confidence that this was a lone actor? And has the suspect made any statements to police while in custody?
Yeah, I think it's just it's not my profession. We have great professionals up here and outside that have been working with us. My impression is he was a lone wolf. whack job. These are crazy people. These are crazy people, and they have to be dealt with. We had that in the second attempt, as you know, and he's spending life in prison. Because if you let him out, they'll probably, if he serves 10 years or 15 years, you let him out, he'll probably try it again with somebody else. They're sick people. We have a lot of sick people. But you're going to know, I think very shortly, you're going to know, Todd, a lot about him. You're going to know a lot about him. Yeah, a couple of more. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Are you concerned about political violence? This could be politically motivated.
All violence. I'm concerned about everything. Look, but I can't be so concerned that you can't function. No, I'm here. It's a dangerous profession. I tell the story, race car drivers, I think it's very dangerous. So if you take 1% and then take about 10% of 1%, just to break it down very easily, they die. So much less than 1%, 10% of 1%. I think bull riding is very dangerous. If you take about the same 10% of 1%, much less than 1%. But if you take presidents, it's 5.8%. And about 8% are shot at. So nobody told me this was such a dangerous profession. If Marco would have told me, maybe I wouldn't have run. Maybe I would have said, I'll take a pass. No, it's a dangerous profession, but I don't view it that way. Look, I'm here to do a job. As part of the job, it is a dangerous, I can't imagine that there's any profession that's more dangerous, but I love the country and I'm very proud. I'm very proud of the job we've done. You see what's happened. We have a great country. We've got, I think, the most successful, the hottest country anywhere in the world. This happened over a period of just a year, and we're going to do great things, but with that come risks. There's no question about it. Yeah.
To that end, there's been so much political violence, not just aimed at yourself, but at other members of Congress, state house speakers, you name it. Is that just the cost of doing business to do politics in America anymore?
Yeah. Well,
what does that say about our country?
We're not the only country. You look at this great violence with all countries. I was talking to somebody from another country today, and they have numerous assassinations of political figures all over the world. You look at South America, it's like some of the numbers are just horrific. It's dangerous stuff, whether it's here or someplace else. No country is immune. No country. Good question.
At this point?
Well, probably if I decided to just not do much, if I let everybody rip us off and take advantage of us. Look, we're leading the world in trade now. We're leading the world in the military. We're the greatest military in the world. I rebuilt it in my first term, and now we use it because we have no choice. We can't let, as an example, Iran, we can't let them get a nuclear weapon. Everything will be peanuts compared to that if they ever were given a nuclear weapon, and they'd use it too. Marco and I were talking about it today. They would use it without even hesitation. We can't do that. It was a shame. I said, oh boy, look at the numbers. We just broke 50,000 in the Dow. We just broke 7,000 in the S&P. They said we couldn't do it in 7 years, 5 years, 4 years. They were saying maybe in 5 or 6 years. And we did it in 1 year. And I called everybody together. I called all of these people and others. And I said, we have to take a little journey. I seek to do this. We just had the great number. We just broke 50,000. Wasn't supposed to happen during my term. Wasn't reachable. We did it in 1 year. And I said, we're going to have to make a journey to Iran. They're going to have a nuclear weapon if we don't do it. We had the B-2 bombers take them out. I terminated in the first term the Obama agreement, the Iran nuclear agreement, which was a disaster. That was a road to a nuclear weapon. They would have used it. They would have used it 100%. So, when you do things like that, you become a target. If I wasn't doing that, I guess I'd be a lot less of a target. But I'm honored to be. Okay, one more question. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, President Trump. Thank you, President Trump. Do you know how the gun was brought into the hotel? And also, how does this event impact you as the leader of our country? Do you think it will change your
I
leadership?
like not to think about it. I lead a pretty normal life, considering it's a dangerous life. I think I handle it as well as it can be handled. I think a lot of other people, you read stories where they become basket cases. To be honest with you, I'm not a basket case. I really take it as it is. I do it for the country. I'm not doing it for any other reason. I have a first lady who's doing a terrific job. She loves the country, and she recognizes it better than anybody. She's told me numerous times, she said, you are in a dangerous job. But that goes along with her too. I mean, it's dangerous for her too. We sat there tonight, we heard that noise, and it was either a tray or a bullet. I was hoping it was a tray, but it wasn't. And again, we had some very brave people doing a great job, so we're very proud of them and happy with them. I just want to thank everybody. They will be able to give you all that information as to the names and everything else. I think we released the names already. Most of you would have it, but his name. We appreciate it. I see so many tuxedos and beautiful dresses. It was a little different evening than we thought, but we're going to do it again, and we have a great chairman who we're so proud of, and we have to make it better. We'll make it safer, I guess, right? But we're going to make it even better. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Can we hear from the about how impactful this was? Can we hear from her about?
Well, honey, would you want to say something?
Okay.
Huh?
One in the back, sir.
Right.
Millions of people across the globe, in fact, are watching you. You demonstrated courageous leadership, and thank God you're alive. All of us are alive today. What is the message that you want to give to the world that this should change? What corrective measures can we take from here on? So.
Well, all you can do, look, I don't care how many people you have, how good they are. They can be the greatest people. You have the greatest security in history. If you have a whack job who's got a brain, but it's a little bit distorted or a lot distorted, they can make trouble. I would say, Pete, right? You know, they can make trouble. Some of these people are of genius level IQ, and they're nuts. So it can be trouble. So you do absolutely the best. You get the best. We have the best people. Well, look, it was proven tonight. He started running from 50 yards, and he was fast. He was like a blur on tape. He was moving. It was very impressive the way they got him, because a lot of people would be looking and saying, you know, it's like a weird feeling, and they would let him get through, but they didn't let him get through. They drew those guns so fast. They looked like Matt Dillon. They looked like somebody that knew what they were doing. What do we do? But it comes with the territory. And if you want to do a great job, I really believe that. And you take a look at what's happened to some of our greatest presidents, and it doesn't happen to people that don't do anything. And it's not going to deter me from winning the war in Iran. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I really don't think so, based on what we know. But we're going to continue to do a great job. That's all I can do. Thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you.
Cara, ele é incrível, ele realmente é um cara incrível. Puxa vida, ainda bem que ele está presidente dos Estados Unidos, né? Isso aí a gente tem que agradecer a Deus, tá? Ele é um cara incrível. Angelina Santos, obrigado pelo like no Facebook, valeu mesmo, tá? Muito obrigado por isso. A gente está vendo, está assistindo, está acompanhando. Amigos, eu vou encerrar. Vou botar a vinheta de encerramento. Entre a vinheta de encerramento e a vinheta de decreto, que a gente põe logo depois. Eu dou tchau para todo mundo. Ali que eu dou tchau para todo mundo. Porque por volta de 10h30, 11 horas, nós estamos de volta com o Brasil. E aquilo que eu ia mostrar da Dercy Gonçalves, da Venezuela, que eles estão fazendo a mesma coisa que aqui, querendo tomar conta da eleição, querendo mandar na eleição para que eles ganhem e continuem no poder. E lá, se ela ganhar, foi o que o cara falou. Quem ganhou foi o Maduro. O mundo acreditou nos caras porque queria. A gente tem muita coisa aqui. Nós estamos na frente, estamos bem nas pesquisas, e a gente tem que ganhar essa eleição porque ninguém aguenta mais PT. Cara. Ninguém. Tá? E essa semana nós temos delação do Borcaro pela frente. Muita especulação, muita falação, mas a verdade, se isso aqui fosse um país sério, já teríamos 3 ministros presos, pelo menos o presidente da Câmara, o presidente do Senado preso também, porque estão envolvidos, tem muita coisa ali por trás que não se falou, mas tem muita sujeira ali. Uns 15 deputados, 15 pessoas, deputados e senadores, estariam presos também. Tá, e a gente estava esperando, mas o que vai fazer? O BRB que não tinha comprado, agora é obrigado a comprar. O BRB vai pedir um recurso para o governo federal de 40 bi, 50 bi para cobrir o rombo, que os bancos não querem pagar. Que coisa feia nós estamos vivendo, hein? Coisa muito, muito, muito feia. Mas, enfim, esse foi o caminho que Deus nos deu, esse caminho que nós vamos em frente, esse caminho que vai nos levar à vitória depois, esse caminho que vai botar esse cara daí para fora. Continuar só observando. Tá? Então vamos lá, vamos aqui botar a vinheta. Vou tirar isso aqui, aí fica grandinho. E vou botar a vinheta de encerramento, depois a gente também de encerramento, também de decréscimo do tchau para todo mundo. Vou parar, eu peguei a vinheta errada, cara. Eu peguei jamais. Edição extraordinária, está aqui a vinheta certa. Desculpa. Botando ela no ar. É isso aí, né? Do meu lado aqui tem um link, do lado desse link tem um código QR. Tanto faz você entrar pelo link como entrar pelo código QR. Você vai para uma plataforma onde estão todos os nossos canais. Segue a gente onde você puder. Ajuda a gente, é legal, bacana ter a sua companhia. Seja nosso amigo. Você não precisa mandar superchat. Você não precisa ser membro, ser associado, ser apoiador. Você pode até ser isso tudo, mas você não precisa ser isso para seguir a gente. Você só precisa ser nosso amigo. Seja nosso amigo. Nós fazemos jornalismo bobão, jornalismo sem frescura, jornalismo sem telepronto, com tudo improvisado, tudo aqui é improviso, mas simples, 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 sempre pautando a verdade. A verdade é o que você vai encontrar aqui, para que você possa, quando chegar em outubro, decidir pela verdade. A verdade é o mais importante, a verdade é o que a gente busca. Tá? Desculpa pelos pequenos erros, isso vai num programa de improviso. Tá? Ainda não estou bem de gripe, estou mal de gripe. Sexta-feira eu não consegui nem fazer o programa, minha voz não está essa maravilha que já não é grande coisa, agora então, né? Não está essa maravilha de tudo. Né? E aí eu queria agradecer vocês todos, começando com o Papai do Céu. Obrigado, Papai do Céu. É live tranquila, valeu pela força. Abençoa quem viu essa live hoje. Quem vai ver amanhã, depois da manhã, pode ver. E quem vê, o Senhor abençoa. Obrigado, Papai Noel, por isso. Você de casa, de novo, entre 10 e meia 11 horas, estou de volta. Hein? Muito obrigado pela sua audiência. Muito obrigado pela sua paciência. Até daqui a pouco. Tchau, 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 tchau.